All right, feel free to start her up.
So over to you, Bill.
Hang on, I had to wait for people to vacate the study room. I'll be ready in 1 minute. Okay, getting it together here. Basically what I did, and good evening, everybody. Tonight's talk is implementing VARA. And I know we've been working on VARA for a few weeks here already. But mostly I wanted to find out if anybody's having any trouble getting it working. And my two presentations, which we can use both tonight, one or the other. One is on VARA FM, one is on VARA HF. And basically they're just doing an overview of the installation process and why anybody would want to use VARA for either kind of radio at all. And my power supply is being fuzzy, so let's see if we can get it working. Have a little juice, that'd be great. So what's the vote? What do people want to learn about VARA tonight that they don't already know? How about we find out who is doing Winlink with VARA on FM now? They're already succeeding with that. Anybody? Steve, am I coming through okay?
Yeah, I just didn't want to be the one to volunteer.
Okay, just want to make sure I got good audio with you folks.
So
You
you've
sound
got
great.
good audio. I am not using Winlink at this time. I had a fire and lost all my FM radios, so I'm still in the replacement mode. I'm listening to the class because eventually I want to be using it. I'm just not right now. Okay, and I'm sorry, I didn't have my Zoom window open. Who was speaking? Ray Smith, KD7 AVP. Okay, that's Ray, one of our teachers. How about other people? Let me stop the share so I can see folks for a minute. And some people don't use cameras, apparently. So let's see. Got Joe. I think he's pretty involved with it. How you doing on Winlink, Joe?
Well, right now I've been, I actually built my own little VARA box. I have a couple of them now. I shouldn't call them VARA boxes. They aren't. This is a Masters Communications, was it FR or SR 70s?
Okay.
I've been using that, but the local gateway I have doesn't have that. So I've got the old fashioned signal link hooked up right now. So
okay, so you're saying the gateway doesn't have VARA, it just has packet?
it just has packet, and
Okay.
you're right. And it doesn't have, and maybe you can kind of disentangle my brain from the difference between using the Masters Communication, which goes faster with VARA, and just using VARA with, say, signaling.
That's a good question. It doesn't necessarily go faster with the Masters Communication card if your radio doesn't. Your radio has to have the 9600 baud discriminator bypass so that you can use the full bandwidth to get wide mode. But even in narrow mode, you can still get 10 times the speed of packet with the signal link. And that's my understanding of the difference. Now, apparently some of the newer signal links can compete with the master's cards. I do not have any new signal links. Most of mine are probably 10 years old, but they all seem to do VARA FM just fine. But lately I've been buying the master's cards because they do exactly the same job and they seem to do it very well. You can do VARA, you can do packet, and I'm told you can even do FL Digi because they've updated the FL Digi suite to work with the masters. And somebody else has got their mic hot. Speak up, go ahead. Or was that just an artifact? I heard another voice kicking in somewhere. Ray, was that you? Hello.
It might have been. I had walked away and left the mic on and my son walked into the room, so it could be.
Okay. Yeah, please mute your mics if you're not speaking. That just helps avoid that sort of thing. Okay, let's see. Anybody else? Tell me what your experiences are. I've been gone 2 weeks. I apologize for my absence last week. Got back from California last night. I know Randy's doing great stuff. Leonardo, you're still working on your ham license, I believe.
Correct.
Let's see. Vern, how you doing, Vern?
Doing well. We don't have any VARA FM stations nearby in Yakima, so I've been using UZ7HO software, and it seems to be working fine.
Okay, that's great. And you're doing VARA on HF?
Yes, I've been able to do that also.
Great. Okay, you're off and running then. All right. Well, I'm just going to go through the slide decks. A lot of it may be duplicate of what you already know, but I sent the links to Steve to share with all of you. My goal again was to come up with 2 decks for each side of VARA, one for FM and one for HF, basically talking about what it's good for, reviewing the steps, but not getting into the details. And then the second half of each of these presentations, which we won't get into, but you will have links for, that has step-by-step instructions, everything about how to download it, install it, configure it for both FM and HF. Step-by-step. The detailed setups are meant more as like a personal instruction manual to help any operator get VARA installed and working. And at the end of each of the intro decks, the link is also available to the detailed slides. So, and since we've got plenty of time and some of this may be redundant, questions are definitely entertained at all times. So let me share my screen again. Let me actually just share Google Chrome. Okay, so I'm just going to step through these. Stop me if I'm going too fast. Stop me if you see something that you haven't seen before. Happy to discuss any of this at any point. So, pros and cons. Why use VARA FM instead of packet? We've got to have gateways, although you can always do peer-to-peer with some other hams in your neighborhood. You can learn together, and all you need is 2 computers and 2 radios and sound cards, of course. You don't have to have any infrastructure, and you can still get proficient with Winlink Express and VARA. VARA FM with the wide mode on certain radios, like some of the Kenwoods and Yaesus that have the 9600 baud bypass. How to find gateways. We touched on that in some earlier talks. We're not going to get into how VARA works. There's lots of good discussion, including by the creator, EA5HVK, on how it works, how it uses military-grade data compression on HF to nearly replace a Pactor modem, which is a gigantic step forward. It definitely keeps our costs down. I'm not going to get into how to do Winlink Express if you're not familiar with it. We're not going to cover that tonight. Obviously, we want to help you if you get stuck. I can't help you with necessarily getting it working great with some radio that I've never seen before, but we should be able to help you one way or another. There's a lot of members and other hams around that know lots more about this stuff than I do. I'm just sharing what has worked for me so far. Always great if you're going to get into something and you're not sure where you're going, but you know somebody that's doing it already. It's not a bad idea to get the same radio they got, because that's going to make them more helpful for you. Okay, we'll figure it out. We'll learn how to work it together. Assumptions. You're already doing Winlink Express over the air, maybe with Packet. You're using a signal link or sound modem software. I have not talked to anybody that still uses Cantronics TNCs. They're still around. They're definitely still useful, but only on packet gateways. They're absolutely useless for VARA. So we're not getting into those. How to locate gateways, we talked about that. And now you're ready to try out VARA FM. So the speeds are blazing, even in the narrow mode. Can even go through voice repeaters. I have not personally tested this yet. You can also use digipeaters. I have done that. You can send much larger attachments very quickly. We have a windshield survey drill coming up with Seattle Fire Department in a couple of weeks. They want to test the use of hams to survey places to save the firefighters from having to do that. Our ability to send photographs quickly is going to be used. It's very forgiving to less than perfect band conditions. And as I said, certain radios, you could do the wide mode. I just got 9600 baud throughput. Signal Link does just great, even the older ones. 10 to 20 times faster than Packet, varying between the narrow mode and the wide mode. And he's working on it. Jose is working and improving at all times. And inside of Winlink Express, you can easily switch between Packet and VARA because you've pre-programmed Winlink Express to use the appropriate program to do one or the other. You don't have to change connections or hardware. You just switch sessions. I do this frequently. Make sure I still remember how to do Packet. You can't talk to a Packet gateway with a VARA setup or vice versa. They do not talk to each other. It's got to be like to like. VARA FM at both ends or Packet at both ends. There are some dual mode gateways around. I don't know any easy way to find them, except if you're looking at the winlink.org maps and you are looking at Packet in a certain area, and then you switch to VARA FM and you see the same gateway show up. Okay, you might want to make a note of that. People are sometimes they're setting up hybrid dual mode gateways. That's kind of cool. We've already talked about the inexpensive price of this lifetime license, covers both HF and FM per call sign, as low as $50 if you get 9 of your friends together. And I can't spell single, apparently. Okay, so again, I'm going to just zoom through this because I think most of you have already heard some of this stuff. Oh, and Steve shared the links to the presentation. That's great. Thanks, Steve. So if you're already doing Packet with your setup, you've got everything you need, assuming you've got a sound card again. If you're doing a signal link or a master's card, you've got everything you need to do VARA. You don't even have to pay for it when you want to try it out, see if it works. And sound modem is the way I do Packet on a signal link or a master's communications card. There's also Direwolf. They basically teach the sound card how to make the right noises and how to interpret the right noises. And VARA, the WinLink Express has built in the ability to work with VARA software, but you have to have the VARA software to get WinLink Express to do it. VARA FM WinLink. All right, so basically, here's the quick recipe of how you would get your setup to do VARA FM. You download it, you install it, you do configuration, which is very simple compared to sound modem. It's almost all you got to do is tell it what kind of sound card you've got. Tell WinLink Express where you put the VARA program on your computer. And on FM, not HF, but on FM, auto-tune is very slick. You put in the call sign of a gateway and you tell it, try getting into that gateway. You don't have to do WinLink Express at all, just VARA FM. And it basically talks to the gateway, slowly raising the audio level in through 10 steps. So it's figuring out how to set itself for the optimum throughput. And you don't have to do anything. You just run that once. It also checks to see if you can hit the gateway instantly without even making a message in WinLink Express. And then once you got that working, you might as well send some messages. So VARA FM setup, and this image is old, doesn't matter, whatever the current version is. At its fastest, I love this screenshot. This is when VARA FM has the best possible path. Line of sight, wide mode, 256 simultaneous streams. That just blows my mind. It's quick. And then there's a few links in here to learn more about VARA FM. One of my associates here in Seattle wrote the What is VARA article on VARA FM. And at the very top, quick setup by another ham, give you another opinion of how to set things up. Sometimes it's good to read 2 or 3 different sets of directions and things sink in. That works for me. And then at the end of this slide deck is the link that takes you to the details. And we already touched on this in a previous week, but just to review, you can find gateways a couple of different ways. You can do it on the winlink.org website if you have internet service. You can also do it inside of WinLink Express. Again, you need internet service, but you can go into channel selection and tell it to go get the latest list. Since you put your grid square in settings inside of WinLink Express knows where you are. So everything it shows you is going to be based on the range, and direction will be based on your location. For instance, here's a list in Seattle of some VARA FM gateways sorted by distance from me. So the closest one is on Mercer Island at 4 miles away on UHF, and they go on from there. So we got a lot of VARA to play with here. We're kind of lucky. Got people that really got into it. And if you back to the winlink.org website, you just scroll around and zoom in, and you can find gateways near you. All you need is their call sign and their frequency. That's all WinLink Express needs to know. Any questions on VARA FM at this point? And I know this is a review, but this is just making sure that we can get as many of you trying out VARA one way or another as possible. Thanks, Steve, for the link. Okay, no questions?
No, Bill, I have one. This is
Yes, sir.
And so when I usually set up for example, the signal link, I start up my sound modem and I hook up the signal link. When I start up the VARA, I don't have sound modem on. I just start up Winlink, and then Winlink spawns off the VARA software.
Yes.
So so I've never tried to use VARA with my signal link. What's the kind of the pieces and steps I need to do to get that to talk?
Okay, well, that's what's in the detailed slides, and we can go
Okay.
over it because that's fine. As we help you, everybody gets to learn. You mentioned that when you're doing packet, though, that you were starting up sound modems separately.
Yes.
But you know that in WinLink Express, you can tell it where your sound modem program is,
Oh,
and it'll
okay.
start it up for you. So again, the idea is that you can switch gears anytime you need to between packet gateways and VARA gateways without having to do anything special except choose the type of session that you want to do. And WinLink will start the program for you.
Okay.
So what you do
Yep.
on your computer, why don't you share your screen and we can talk through it. Let's see how it works.
All right.
Everybody can see exactly where you would do this.
Share screen.
Because this is perfect. This is exactly what we're trying to learn how to do. So you're helping us all.
Okay, I think I'm sharing.
Okay. So you've already got packet WinLink selected as a session type. So if you click
Yes.
open session.
Okay, should I close the sound modem over here? Phil?
Yeah, go ahead and close that.
Okay, so open session.
Open session. And then at the top, click on settings.
Okay,
See where it says packet sound modem in that white box? About the third one down.
right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
just click browse
Mm-hmm.
and point it to wherever you put your sound modem software.
So that's on my desktop
Okay, same as me.
and sound modem. There's a, there we-
Okay, there you go. Click on that, click open,
okay.
and then it records that for you. Be sure to check the checkbox. So it starts
automatically.
automatically when
Okay.
you start a packet session. There you go. Now just click update.
Oh, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, don't use the X. I see people do that all the time. That's usually a bad idea in most of any kind of software. You don't know whether your changes are really going to stick.
Right.
As far as I know, the X means cancel,
Yes,
which
yes.
means you just threw away whatever you thought you were doing. So you always want to choose OK or update to make sure that whatever you did actually sticks. Okay, why don't you try it out? Why don't you just
Okay.
open, just click
Start.
start. Yeah. Beauty, you're there.
All right, thank you.
Sure. So that's one less step. You don't have to worry about pre-starting sound modem. And you do
All right.
exactly your same thing with VARA FM. You tell the session, you set where your software is, and that's it. It's a super simple thing to do.
All right, thank you.
My pleasure.
So I will quit sharing. Oh, then the next question is then how do you, I'm not doing VARA though this way. This is.
No, you're doing packet right now.
Right, right.
Okay, do you want to demo VARA for us? Or you said there's no VARA gateways near you?
I don't think there is. That's a great question. So.
Okay.
Um,
But do you have any other MCOM hams near you that you could do some peer-to-peer with sometime?
Arnie, but he's not on yet, so I will.
That's fine. Not necessarily for tonight, but
Right, right.
that's a way for both of you to practice VARA FM. You don't need anyone else besides the two of you to be involved. You don't even have to have any gateways, and you guys can ship files back and forth at high speed on FM by doing VARA FM peer-to-peer. And we
Yes.
haven't got into that in this class at all, but you've got everything you need. And if you get stuck, just let me know and we can do a quick assist or something and figure out what's going on. But
And that's for the packet Winlink. And then if you switch to go to VARA, you just go and do the drop-down menu to VARA FM Winlink, right?
yeah, right. So once you click on that, and then let's look at, go ahead and click open session. And even if you don't have any gateways near you, let's just see.
Oops.
Oh, your board's not plugged in.
It's absolutely right.
Okay, no problem.
Why don't you catch somebody else and I'll get this.
Okay, you got it. So
when I come
unshare,
back.
I'm going to unshare your screen
And
and,
let's
we'll
see,
see what other people are up to.
new share, no, that's new share. Sorry about that. Stop sharing. There we
There you
go.
go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, who else we got? I think I heard a ping, so somebody might have joined us. Frank and Mary Lynn. Anybody else want to show us how their setup at home is working? And any questions, we'll handle them. Well, I'm going to plug on through and then go through the same slides for VARA HF because there's a few more wrinkles. But let me get back to my other setup here. There we go, VARA HF. What is it good for? Same idea. Going to step through it fairly quickly. Review. It's probably review for most of you. But if you're not doing it yet, it doesn't hurt to hear this more than once. So same thing, pros and cons. The idea on HF, which Jose came up with first, was to replace the need for a Pactor modem. And on good band conditions, it does. It absolutely screams. How to locate HF gateways, what not covered, how VARA even works. We could find that easily on his website. Again, not getting into any beginner stuff on Winlink Express, assuming you already know how to work that. Can't again assure you that I know I'll be able to help you with any particular radio than you've got. I've done a few HF radios. We got other people that have done other ones. We got more knowledgeable people than me by far. Find an Elmer with the same radio. It's still the best device I know. Okay, so you're already doing Winlink and you're comfortable with HF, assuming you've got a general license or higher, and you're doing HF, and maybe you're doing some other modes like FT8 and so forth. So you've got a sound card of some kind already. That'd be great. HF equipment, suitable antenna, general or higher license. You're ready to try out this idea of VARA, and it came along at a good time because Winmore's gone. That was the only one that's built into Winlink for HF use. There are lots and lots of HF gateways that support multiple protocols. They've got some that support a Pactor modem and RDOP and VARA HF. Very cool. Works great even in less than perfect connections. Signal Link does just fine on HF. And Jose keeps adding features and improving his software. It's in constant development.
So Bill, I'm not seeing the slides advanced. Is that just me or is that everybody?
I don't know. Anybody else? I think I'm sharing it. Am I maybe not sharing the right thing?
No, it's
Anybody
just not,
see the?
it's not advancing.
I'm on the page that says cons. Can you see that?
I'm just seeing the title.
Okay, then maybe I didn't share the right screen. So let's go back. Let's go to my screen here. Okay, how about now?
That's it.
Okay, you want me to go back?
I don't care. It's up to the others if they want to see the previous slides.
Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. I didn't mean to not show you what the slides were doing. I could go back. We're not talking more than a couple of minutes here, so I don't mind. Let's go back real quick, just to step through. Pretty much assumptions. That's a good place to start. Okay, where everybody can see assumptions?
Yes.
Yes?
We can.
Yes. Okay. So we already got through this. HF, ready to get VARA HF working. Development continues. Pactor or RDOP or VARA HF, they do not talk to each other. You have to use the same protocol as the gateway that you're trying to connect with. But as I said, there are lots of gateways that do multiple modes automatically. Got to have VARA HF at both ends to make this work. Again, the license very reasonable. One license covers both HF and FM. Many of the HF radios have their own sound cards built in, makes it even easier. Connects directly to your computer with a single cable. And as I said, some of you are probably doing some digital stuff already on HF. So same steps, add and configure the VARA HF program to Winlink Express. There's an appropriate session type built into Winlink Express, VARA HF Winlink. So again, the quick list of how you would get VARA working for an HF station, assuming you've got all the parts. Download the program, install VARA HF, configure it, tell Winlink Express where to find it so it'll start the software for you automatically, and you send some messages. So here's what VARA HF looks like. It's very similar to FM. Here it is running with 4 parallel streams. And there's a YouTube link there. And since you'll have a link to the slide deck, you could go to this slide and click that. You could also just Google it. You'll probably find it. And you can actually watch a VARA session play out. According to how the band conditions are, this is showing you from VARA slowest to VARA fastest. It's got 11 different phases it can go through. So depending on conditions, it could really get cranked up. Detailed instructions that are at the, again, of the deck that has all the step-by-step with screenshots of how to download and install VARA HF on your computer and get it talking to your radio. And then here's the description from the actual author. I think it was 2017 it came out, so it's only been around for 5 years. How do I find gateways? We've touched on this, but there's the review. Same thing. You can go to the winlink.org website, go to tools. They got maps and lists there. Inside of Winlink Express, you can start a session and have it download the latest list based on your location. And the nice thing about the HF side, it also is constantly monitoring band conditions between where you are and where the gateways are. So it gives you a very nice, easy to use estimate of how likely you'll be able to connect to that gateway, depending on what bands you can use. There's some pretty good distances here. I see an XE station, that's Mexico, 800, almost 800 miles away with a really good, and that's, see, 18 meg. What is that, 30 meters? I don't remember what 18 meg is. Might be 17. Let's see. Anyway, I should know. So here's, I went to winlink.org and I zoomed into the Seattle, Portland area, and I clicked on one of the little push pins to find out this guy, K7UNI, and you can't see it in this slide. You might be able to at the top. He's got 2 80 meters frequencies and 1 40 meter frequency. So always look at the little tabs at the top. That'll tell you what bands they're monitoring. So I should be able to hit him from here, no problem. Again, there's the link to the step-by-step. Again, questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Bill.
Yes, sir.
This is Vern. So when you look on the list, sometimes you see VARA, sometimes you see VARA 500, sometimes you see VARA 2750 or something like that. What's the difference?
I think 2750 is the max. And I know that sometimes they do 500 because that way you're not clobbering surrounding frequencies. But I truly have never specified in my software that it used 500. Maybe during contesting, it might be important. Interestingly, the group I work with that helps people get their Winlink skills going, we've got a group inside our group that's specializing in peer-to-peer. They're doing HF, peer-to-peer Winlink VARA all over the country. And in fact, they're coming up with do we just have a practice? No, we have like a twice a year peer-to-peer practice coming up. When they're doing those, they restrict themselves to 500 so that they are not trashing surrounding frequencies. And that's the only reason I know to use it. Excuse me. That you are holding your bandwidth down. So there's going to be a speed reduction, obviously. But it's the gateway is telling you that it can handle either one. And by the way, it's not something I mentioned before, but I have never found that you have to do anything in either VARA FM or HF to specify whether you're doing wide or narrow on the FM side, I should say. In other words, the gateways handle it automatically. If all you can do is narrow, you don't have to change anything. You just do VARA, and VARA accepts it. So he's already handling that in his software, detecting whether you're doing narrow or wide. You don't have to set anything. You're doing what you can do, and the gateways work. So it's so easy to connect to VARA stations. And let's see, something in the chat. That was Steve with the links. That's all I have today, but I'm at your disposal with any questions, concerns, input on getting VARA working. What can I do to help you guys do that?
So this Joe Moore again.
Yes, sir.
Think I remember at one point you said that you can also connect directly up to an ICOM 7300
Correct.
in USB. So you
Yes.
can have either signal link or master's communication. It's just a direct USB connection.
Yeah, because there's a sound card inside the radio.
And when you do that, the somehow Winlink knows that it's connected through there, or do you have to tell it that?
Well, you have to tell it that, but Winlink doesn't know how it's connected to the radio. It just sees a
Right.
sound card that it's connected to. Whether it doesn't care if it's external or internal. Let me take us briefly into the detailed HF setup.
That'd be great.
Only because I specifically put some slides in there about that topic, because it's a really interesting topic. So let's see, detailed setup. Here we go. So I'm just going to whip through this until I get to the one I want to show you. But again, you folks have the links to these now. So you can work through this. If you're stuck on any of it, there's a screenshot and explicit directions on how to do the whole thing. So I'm going to go zipping forward here to get to the place that talks about that. So this is showing a gadget that's in Windows called the Device Manager. This is how you find out what devices Windows sees. Very useful. You get to it through the control panel or on Windows 10 and 11 through settings. You just search for Device Manager and it'll come up. So if you're connected to a 7300, this is likely what you would see if you looked in your Device Manager. The radio appears as two different devices. It shows up as a USB audio codec, just like a signal link would. So that's what VARA is going to be talking to. But also the second red box shows a COM3 port that appeared when you connected that radio to the computer. That is how you tell Winlink Express to control the radio. You tell it there's specific settings in Winlink Express. You tell it the make and model of your radio, and Winlink Express starts talking directly to it, and it sets frequencies for you automatically. Really slick. So Winlink Express has all of that built in for a whole range of radios, but you've got to know what to tell Winlink Express, what port number. This is how you find out the port number. It's COM3. So you would set up VARA for the USB audio. It would say, fine, that's good. And you could tell Winlink Express about the COM3 port. And now you control the radio from Winlink Express, which I think is magic. That was what I wanted. And thank you for asking for that, Joe, because, but again, there's no reason necessarily to go through all of the steps of the detailed presentations, because that's if you're actually doing it, that's when it's going to be useful. You know, they're there, they're available to you. If you want me to go over them, that's fine, but I'd rather make sure that you come away with an overview of the process and know that you've got detailed instructions available to you. If you just don't feel confident, especially when you get involved with downloading, unzipping, convincing Windows it's okay to run the program. There's a bunch of little Windows steps that a lot of people are not comfortable with. I install software all the time, so I don't even think about it, but a lot of people don't. And this is definitely a Windows software issue. You're plugging something new in. You have to tell Windows it's okay to run this, and then you're off and running. Somebody said something. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Vern. Just a comment. It also is a good idea to always plug into the same USB slot on your computer.
I have not run into that as a problem, but you could be right. Some computers, it does seem picky. What I've noticed is that USB ports are usually in pairs. And inside the computer, there's a chip for each pair of USB ports. If you go from one pair to a different pair on your computer, let's say you've got at least 4 ports, it'll reconfigure, because it will see that device that you connected as something new because it's coming in on a different port. So again, it's pairs. You'll have 2 and 2 and 2, and there's a UART something or other chip for each pair of ports. So you might have to go through convincing Windows, where the driver is and so forth. So it's not a bad idea. You're absolutely right to connect it to the same port each time. But when people have had problems getting it to work, sometimes the best way to get around that is put it on a different port, force Windows to use the latest copy of the driver, or maybe you have to download and install it manually again for your radio. But sometimes that gets the problem fixed. Randy, did we do that on yours? That sounds familiar. Didn't we? I don't remember if we had a driver problem on yours, but anyway, somebody I was helping.
I've forgotten now.
That's okay. We got it working. But
Yeah.
but you get into USB port issues and driver issues, and it gets crazy. But it's always good to check the manufacturer's website and get whatever they want you to download for your radio, including firmware updates. I know on the 991A, they specify that you definitely want to do that before trying this out at all. Make sure that your radio is as smart as you can make it.
I have both the 7300 and the 7100 hooked up to my computer. Of course, the 71 takes up 2 COM ports for some reason, and then the 73 takes 1. So
Interesting.
it was an issue for me if I didn't plug it into the same slot each time.
Okay. No, that's very good feedback to have. Thank you. That's a good, anything to help us avoid extra work. That's good. Okay. How we doing? Anybody else lurking? Questions? Problems? Happiness? Sadness? Leo, when are you going to get your license? Leonardo, I should say.
Well, hopefully at the end of, I think, December is when we have our last class. And so But in the meantime, I think I'm learning a lot more than I'll need to know. But it's it's coming along really well. I mean, everything makes sense logically. It's a matter of actually doing it now.
Boy, you got that right. You just summed it up beautifully. Thank you, Leonardo. See anybody else we haven't talked to yet? Bob's iPhone. Which Bob is on Bob's iPhone?
KN6QT.
Oh yeah, good to see you. How's it going in your world?
Very, very slow. Been out of the business for quite a while, but finally got myself some hardware here.
Good.
And the learning curve through this IC 7000 is enormous. So I still have a long way to go to understand all the nuances of the HF radio.
Okay. And that one does not have a built-in sound card, right? You have to have something external.
I have the
Signal link.
signal link on the
Good.
side.
Okay.
I'm not
Excellent.
sure what the model is, but I can be quite sure that it's adapted to that radio because it was bought with the radio.
Good. Well, you got the right parts going for you. That's great. Okay. So anybody else? What do we got going here? Doesn't even have to be on VARA. Anything Winlink that I could talk to you about. By the way, there is a exercise this week at mcom-training.org. If you are on Winlink, it's good to be challenged by new things. Winlink has an awful lot of capability that I didn't know about 2 years ago. These guys keep pushing us to learn how to truly use Winlink to serve our agencies, our churches, clubs, whatever. If you go to mcom-training.org, actually, I haven't posted the new, I will. I need to do that tonight. So go tomorrow. But anyway, we have a new exercise this week, a new Winlink Thursday on the 12th. I'm sorry, that's the peer-to-peer one. I think that's going to be peer-to-peer. So that's a whole nother animal. Sorry, somebody else, Leonardo, is that you? Go ahead.
Yep. So I'm just throwing something theoretical out there. Could you set up, a device that had Winlink and VARA downloaded on it that had, basically like some sensing material, like maybe, monitoring temperatures or collecting some sort of data, and that data then being transmitted to, another radio frequency to accept all of that information, or even like you mentioned earlier, like there's a potential for taking pictures and sending pictures over. I mean, is that a theoretical?
Oh yeah, you could send a still picture every once in a while. I think there might be a way to automate that. Something you can do even without a ham license. You can go to the website aprs.fi. There's a system on ham radio called APRS, Automatic Packet Reporting System. People all over the world who are hams use it to show the position of their vehicles or even themselves as they're driving or walking around. But there's also a lot of ham weather fans that have connected their weather stations to their computers, and their weather data from their location is being shared all over the world through the APRS network by radio. So if you go to that website, aprs.fi, Frank India, there's a guy in Finland that built this site, and look for all the little spots on the map that say WX. Those are weather stations, and they're doing just what you said. They are collecting data, temperature, wind, barometer readings, so forth, and constantly sharing that data so that even if you couldn't get a television signal, but you had your ham gear working, you could get weather reports from all over using just the APRS system. And most of the time it's just on VHF 144.39. There's a number of other frequencies that are used too. But it's one of the coolest things when I discovered APRS. I like it because I work a lot of public service events. And if you've got people driving around rescuing bicyclists or hikers or whatever, you don't have to keep asking everybody where they are. You can look at a map and see where your people are. And so we try to use APRS a lot for any kind of event where we've got mobile hams acting as rescue or SAG wagons or whatever. We actually have the Seattle Marathon coming up day after Thanksgiving. And it's a very large event for hams. We usually have over 100 hams helping out with safety and helping everybody have a good time. And it's cold. It's cold and rainy. So we've got ice on the road. We've got people that are dehydrated or freezing or whatever. And so it cuts down on radio traffic when you don't have to keep asking your people where they are. They're showing up on a map thanks to APRS. So it's one of the many, many things we get to do in ham radio that somebody said, let's do telemetry. And they do, and it works, but also weather data. So check it out.
Great, thank you.
My pleasure.
There's also, you can, I'm gonna have to ask Arnie for help on this because he's the one that told me about it. You can send a Winlink message and it will go and send you back a map from one of the weather satellites. Isn't that right, Arnie?
Yes, you can. I did a long time ago, but I know that there is that capability.
Yeah, we haven't even got into that. Winlink Express has a number of things called a catalog request.
Yeah.
And instead of sending a normal email message, you go to a different menu in Winlink Express and you choose the information you want to get. Then that puts an outgoing message in your outbox. You connect to Winlink, however you can connect. You wait a few minutes and then you connect again, and the robot somewhere will be sending information to you. Weather data, news, there's probably sports on there. I wouldn't be surprised. That's definitely, and we have not gotten into that with Winlink. That's not necessarily a beginner function, but you can, if you're already doing Winlink, you can do that anytime you want. Let's take a quick look at that just for fun.
Great.
Let me share my screen. Let me get out of that. Oh, there we go. Let's go find Winlink Express. Please play with this stuff. That's the neat thing. We keep discovering things that are built in to Winlink that we didn't even know about. Let's see. It's under settings, which I don't know why, but it is. So you see Winlink catalog requests.
Wow.
And there's a list, so it needs to be updated. So I'm going to go get the list. Well, that didn't take long. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of things on the left, different categories of things. Ooh, here's one, Winlink 2000 help. That's just a category. And then there's all this information underneath that. So what you do is pick and choose. So if I post request, no, I got to select it first. I think I have to double click it. So let's do this. Okay, so it adds it under this little box called selections. So now I've got at least one request. Ooh, spam control. That's an interesting one. Okay, so once you've got one or more requests in the selections, you simply post it. So let's see if there's anything. I'm in area 10. I think that's FEMA areas. I'm not positive. Let's go down to the weather reports. That at least I know where I'm at. NOAA, US coast, Hawaii. That sounds interesting. Coastal waters. I'll ask for that one. So I'm going to put 3 requests. Oops, I didn't do it right. Let me go back to my, I got one thing in my outbox now. So it's got 2 things in there. Let me make another one. Settings, Winlink catalog request, channels between. I'm going to post that one too. So I'm going to do 2. So they're just regular Winlink messages now get ready to go out. I'm just sitting at my laptop in the library, so I have to do Telnet. I'm going to do Telnet, and I'm going to ship those out. And then we'll see what comes back. I have not played with the weather maps, but apparently you can even get weather maps this way. Looks like I got some mail too. Cool. Okay, so now I'm going to open the session again and see if anything's come back. No, it's probably a little bit too fast. Yeah, I'll give it a few minutes. Oh, Joe sent me a message. Very cool. I better answer him. And looks like did I answer your question, Vern? Last week's gateways with tonight's HF? I'm not sure I did.
Didn't send a reply, but that's okay. We saw what happened tonight.
Okay. All right, well, I'm going to ship those out and see if there's any answers from the catalog request yet. Yeah, here we go. Inquiry, I got a NOAA. So even if all you've got is Winlink, you've got no internet, you're out in the woods somewhere, or you're out the ocean, you can get weather reports via Winlink in all text, no pictures. That could be very useful if you're out near the Hawaiian Islands someplace. So try that out. Settings, catalog requests, and just start shopping. Figure out what you got in here. Lots of weather. UK cadet. I don't know what that is. Oh, it's propagation. So there's some propagation reports. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to get back into those. What's in Nicaragua? Weather forecast. Lightning. Lightning map of the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. That's pretty interesting stuff. I wonder what the map looks like when I get it back. Well, I'm going to ship it out and find out. And there's 2 more inquiries just came back when I asked it about airmail, telnet, and spam control. It sent me articles on those subjects. It explains how spam control works on Winlink. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, but if you think about it, Winlink is the only spam-proof email system in the world that I've ever heard of. You don't get any spam at all on Winlink, and they work really hard to keep it that way. So I find this fascinating because nobody else seems to be able to do this. That's an advantage we have as hams. We've got an email system that is spam proof. What a time saver that is. Somebody sent me something about Winlink. Oh, Arnie sent something. Excellent. Cool. He sent his grid square and his lat long.
That lat long was generated from a setting within Winlink. I don't have a GPS connected to my system yet, but I hand entered the coordinates, and so now they come out. And if you go down under settings, GPS position reports, there at the bottom, you can hand enter the lat and long.
That's true. I'm inside of a building, but this laptop actually does have a GPS built in. So if I'm outside, this would populate automatically for me, which I really like,
Right.
because I use a lot of forms that pick up your lat long if you have it, and it automatically fills it in on the forms. Pretty slick.
So here's something else that we discovered. If you go under settings and go down to preferences, the under message sending options, the last one there, down right there,
Oh, look at that.
include your location and message headers.
That's new.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was there.
Okay, so there's like a bug. If you have that checked and you are using only your grid square and not your lat long, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing mapping and you're trying to find out where somebody is, say you're out on a MCOM set or deployment, and they want to find out where your location is, if that is checked, it'll put you in the middle of your grid square, not
Right, right.
within 20 feet of where you actually are,
That makes sense.
your lat long is. So
Yeah.
that's something good to know.
That's very good to know. Yeah, that's why having a GPS connected to your computer is really handy for Winlink. But I'm also, like I said, a big fan of APRS, which is completely separate. But as I was mentioning to you guys in Leonardo, let's look at APRS.fi. I know we're out of time, but I'm okay to hang out with you guys if you want. So this is going to show the Seattle area, and it shows commercial boat traffic. It shows aircraft. It shows weather stations. This is a very fun website to play with. You can filter it down. If you click the funnel, you can choose what kind of stations you want to see. So you can tell it, just show me hams that are doing APRS, and they'll come up. And so it filters out a lot of the commercial traffic. But see all the WXs? There's a whole lot of people that are hams that are sending out weather data. I think that's really cool. So all you got to do is click on one of those, and you get the weather data right now at their location. And it's all being archived, so you can look at historical data if you want. You can track, I've tracked King County Sheriff's boats on here.
Yeah.
You can watch all the ferry boats moving around. They all have what's called AIS. That's the commercial version of APRS. That shows you ships. You can sit here and watch the ships cruising around. So this is a very, very fun site. About 6 or 7 years ago, we had a digital ham conference here in Seattle near the airport. And I went to one of the lectures, and there's several hundred guys in the conference room. And a man steps up to the podium, introduces himself. Nobody recognizes his name. And he said, I created APRS.fi. And the room went insane because nobody knew his name. Everybody knew his website. He flew from Helsinki to talk to us. And it was like, wow, I'll never forget how cool that was. And Google gives him access to their programming for free because they recognize that what he's doing is a public service for hams and others. They don't charge him to use all the power of the mapping engine that he's using. So this is a Google map that he's employing and to post his data on top of. You can get lost in this. And again, you don't have to be a ham to look at this. You got to be a ham to put your own location up. And I do. If you search for N6NBN, one of the things I found out is that all you got to do is put a call sign and an asterisk. So if they've put out any version of their call sign. Now, I just drove up from California, so I wasn't beaconing over the radio, but I did have my Android phone beaconing. So we could see where I've been for the last several days. And if we stretch out the hours a little bit, I drove 15 hours yesterday. And you can see Bill driving all the way up the coast from California. And I could have done it by radio, but I wouldn't necessarily have gotten picked up everywhere. This is all cellular. But that's a great track. I got to save that. It was a good drive. Bought a car from my brother and drove it up.
You can also do APRS on some radios.
Oh, absolutely. I've got an Anytone 878 and I figured out how to turn it on. So what's beautiful is that you can still monitor 2 other frequencies and then it blips over real fast and transmits on 144.39 or wherever you want it to. And I found it works pretty well. So I left it on by accident one day and I was walking around or driving around and I noticed that N6NBN-8 was showing up on the map. Oh, sure enough, that's my Anytone. So I've got several devices and 2 different vehicles that beacon. I'm going to put -13 in the car that I just bought. So, and what's nice, he also shows you when that call sign was last heard. So -15 is the most recent. That was 19 hours ago. -8 was only 6 days ago. That was my Anytone. So let's see where that showed up. I was in Laguna Woods, California, apparently, when I had it running. It gives me my speed, my altitude, and what direction I was moving. Not bad from an HT. So yeah, that's a whole nother thing. It's not Winlink, but it's one of the many things we get to do as hands.
I had a coworker who was down in California on the road, and so we were tracking him and gave him quite the rough time because we found him well over the speed limit in a number of places.
Yes, that's true. It does show you at that moment, your speed comes through as well. Let's see, I was averaging about 80 most of the time.
It's really fun when you see an aeronautical mobile on there too and look at their speed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's some hams that have APRS in their aircraft. Let's see how I was doing last night. So I was coming through Rin. So you click one of the dots. I was doing 69 miles an hour there. Probably a little bit faster down by Tacoma. $75 there. So yeah, that data is transmitted too. Okay. Anybody else got anything? We're over time, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Was that the APRS frequency you were broadcasting on?
No, that's just a comment I put in my outgoing. When I'm in Seattle, that's the repeater I listen to.
Oh, okay. So if somebody wants to talk to you, you're monitoring.
Exactly. It's generally in North America 144.390.
Yeah,
is the default APRS frequency. There's actually several others. And we'll do a talk on APRS one of these days because, again, it's an extremely useful tool. It's available to any ham. You can even do messaging over it. It has a whole messaging system. You can use APRS to send and receive email. If you send a Winlink position report, it shows up on the APRS map. So they've tied the Winlink position reports in as well. Here, I'll show you. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. See this little one? It's just the call sign with no suffix. It has a P and a red diamond. That was the last time I sent a Winlink position report. It automatically gets shipped over to the APRS. Apparently at the time I was in West Seattle. And there it was. So that didn't come from my radio or even my phone. It came from a message that I sent via Winlink, a position report message, and the APRS system grabs them. I just think that's cool. So it's another way to put out a position report, and you can have a comment in here, 200 characters or so. If you're in the middle of the ocean and you've got no way to tell your family where you're at, but you could tell them ahead of time, watch this website. And they could see you trucking across the ocean, but you could also put notes in like, I'll be in, Bora Bora tonight. Pina coladas for everybody. So anyway, lots of stuff to do in amateur radio.
So which template did you use for the position report?
You would just the built-in one that's in Winlink. You go to settings, GPS position report. If you don't have a GPS connected, or right now my computer can't see the sky, you can put it in manually, and then you just post the report. So if you go look in your outbox, you'll see that it goes to the tactical call sign QTH, and it's in a very specific format, but it's very simple. You can write this yourself as long as you follow the lat long format, and you can put any comment in here you want. And that will get plotted not only in the Winlink system, but in the APRS system. Very, very cool stuff. People figure out how to hook stuff together. I like it. That's all you got to do. You send that out as a regular Winlink message. You'll get an acknowledgement back. If you didn't get the lat long configured right, they'll tell you. But I do that every once in a while just to remind myself of, I like to update my little red diamond, have it get repositioned once in a while.
So another note, if you're doing APRS on a handheld in a car, you got to keep in mind that the stations you're talking to could be as far as 15, 20 miles away.
Yep.
And it works best if you have an outside antenna on your vehicle.
Yep. My Land Cruiser, I've got a little separate unit that puts out 10 watts. It's about the size of a pack of cigarettes. And it's got an external GPS, and it's got an external antenna, and it plugs in the cigarette lighter. And I actually took it with me on my trip, but I never got around to plugging it in. But that's what I'm going to put in the car that I just got, because it requires no drilling of holes. I found a cigarette lighter in the back seat. So I'm going to run a cord into the trunk and put the antenna on the trunk. And when you've got an external antenna, you get picked up all over the place. That's pretty cool. And 10 watts will do just fine. And one of the things I found you could do is once you play with this map a bit. So let's go back to and 6NBN-7 is my Land Cruiser, which is in my mechanic's garage. So it hasn't moved in 44 days. But if you find one of the little breadcrumbs, these little red dots, and you put your mouse over it, see the green line?
Yep.
That shows what station heard me at that moment. So you can quickly find out by playing around with this where the stations are around Seattle or wherever you are that are picking up APRS broadcasts. And the thing you got to remember is that this is all hams making this work. This is not a commercial service. Some ham has a radio hooked up to a computer, to the internet, and is offering this to all of us, no charge, to serve hams. I just think that's amazing that we do this for each other. We share. I like that. So here I got heard by, in fact, if you click any of these dots, it'll even tell you with the path of the information, how it reached, looks like it reached WA7DY-10. Okay, I need some dinner. Let's call it a night. Anybody got anything else for the good of the order? Oh, APRS check-ins. That's great, Steve. I had not tried that. I would love to know more about how they do that. Because I know how to send a message from APRS, but I've never done a net check-in with it.
Well, I think they sent it to a specific address.
Oh, of course. Right.
And I just don't know what that is, or I could try it, I suppose.
Well, I'm sure if they want people to do it, they must have published the information somewhere. So
Well,
yeah,
I can find out from the net control, but.
yeah, I'm interested. I just think that's great. We do, Winlink check-ins for some of our groups around here, but I've not heard of anybody doing APRS check-in. I think that's great because that encourages people to learn APRS messaging.
Yeah, and then at the beginning of the net, he just acknowledges the APRS check-ins right at the very beginning of the net, and then goes on with the regular city by city roll call.
That's cool. See, I love that stuff. I love all
Well, I'm
this.
going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Yeah, thanks.